There is a moment in every person's life when they come face to face with a difficult truth. It is not a truth about the economy. It is not a truth about their boss, their family, their education, or the opportunities they were given. It is a truth about themselves. The moment arrives when they realize that the biggest factor shaping their future is not what happened to them. It is how they respond to what happened to them. And that is why the first skill you must develop before the age of 35 is the skill of taking responsibility. Responsibility is one of the most misunderstood words in personal growth. Many people hear the word and immediately think of burden. They think of pressure, they think of obligations and expectations, but responsibility is not a burden. Responsibility is power. The moment you take responsibility for your life is the moment you reclaim control over it. Think about it. When we blame someone else for our situation, we hand over our power. When we blame our boss for our lack of growth, we give our boss control over our future. When we blame the economy for our financial struggles, we surrender our ability to find solutions. When we blame our past for our present circumstances, we allow yesterday to dictate tomorrow. Blame feels good in the short term because it protects our ego. It allows us to explain why things are not working. It gives us a story that makes us feel justified. But while blame may provide comfort, it never creates progress. Responsibility, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. Responsibility forces us to look in the mirror. It forces us to ask questions that most people spend their lives avoiding. What could I have done differently? What skills do I need to develop? What habits are holding me back? What decisions am I making repeatedly that keep producing the same results? These questions are not easy, but growth never begins with easy questions. Growth begins with honest ones. The challenge is that many people confuse responsibility with self-criticism. They believe that taking responsibility means attacking themselves for every mistake. But responsibility is not about guilt. It is about ownership. There is a significant difference. Guilt says, I am the problem. Responsibility says, I can influence the solution. One keeps you trapped. The other moves you forward. Look at the people who achieve remarkable things in life. They are not necessarily the smartest. They are not always the most talented. They are not always the most connected. But they share one common characteristic. They refuse to spend their lives waiting for someone else to fix their problems. They understand a simple principle. If it is important enough, they must take ownership of it. If they want better health, they take ownership. If they want stronger relationships, they take ownership. If they want a better career, they take ownership. If they want financial freedom, they take ownership. Notice what they are not doing. They are not waiting for perfect conditions. They are not waiting for permission. They are not waiting for someone to rescue them. They understand that leadership starts long before you lead other people. Leadership begins the moment you lead yourself. And self-leadership begins with responsibility. The reason this skill is so important before the age of 35 is because these years are shaping the direction of your life. The habits you build now become the foundation you stand on later. The mindset you develop now influences every major decision you will make. If you spend your 20s and early 30s blaming circumstances, you may wake up one day wondering why nothing has changed. But if you spend those years taking responsibility, learning, adapting, and growing, create momentum that compounds for decades. Think about responsibility like steering a ship. You cannot control the weather, cannot control the waves, you cannot control the storms, but you can control the direction of the ship. Many people waste years trying to control things they cannot influence. They complain about market conditions. They complain about competitors. They complain about politics. They complain about other people's decisions. Meanwhile, the most successful individuals focus on what they can control. Their effort, their attitude, their preparation, their discipline, their willingness to learn, their response to adversity. And because they focus on what they can control, they gradually expand their influence. Another reason responsibility matters is because it builds trust. People trust individuals who take ownership. When something goes wrong, most people immediately search for someone to blame. They look for excuses. They explain why the failure was someone else's fault. But the person who says, I made a mistake and I will fix it, stands out. That person becomes respected. That person becomes dependable. That person becomes a leader. Trust is not built through perfection. Trust is built through accountability. Nobody expects you to have all the answers, Nobody expects you to be flawless, but people do expect honesty. They expect ownership. They expect integrity. And those qualities emerge when responsibility becomes a habit. The truth is, life will never be perfectly fair. Some people will start with advantages you never had. Some people will receive opportunities you never received. Some people will achieve success faster than you, but fairness has never been the deciding factor in fulfillment. Responsibility has. Because responsibility shifts your attention away from what is outside your control and toward what is inside your control. And that shift changes everything. Every day you have a choice. You can spend your energy explaining why progress is impossible. Or you can spend your energy creating progress. You can focus on obstacles, or you can focus on solutions. You can wait for conditions to improve, or you can improve yourself regardless of conditions. One path leads to frustration, the other leads to growth. The people who build extraordinary lives are not people who never encounter setbacks. They encounter plenty of them. They fail. They struggle. They face rejection. They experience disappointment. The difference is that they refuse to let those experiences define them. Instead of asking, whose fault is this? They ask, what can I do next? And that single question changes the trajectory of a life. Before you reach 35, develop the courage to take responsibility for your choices, your actions, your growth, and your future. Because the day you stop blaming is the day you start leading. And the day you start leading yourself is the day your life begins moving in a direction you once thought was impossible. There is a common belief that success belongs to the most talented people in the room. We assume the smartest person wins. We assume the person with the best ideas rises to the top. We assume that knowledge alone creates opportunity. But if you look closely at the people who make the greatest impact, you will notice something surprising. Many of them are not necessarily the smartest. Many of them are not the most experienced. Many of them do not possess extraordinary talent. What they possess is something far more powerful. They know how to communicate. They know how to take an idea that exists in their mind and make it meaningful to someone else. And that is why effective communication is one of the most important skills you must develop before the age of 35. The reality is simple. Your opportunities are limited by your ability to communicate. You may have a brilliant idea, but if you cannot explain it, the idea remains trapped inside your head. You may have incredible potential, but if you cannot express your value, people may never recognize it. You may have a vision that could inspire thousands, but if you cannot connect with people, that vision never leaves the ground. Communication is not about speaking more. It is about creating understanding. And understanding is what builds trust, influence, and leadership. Think about the leaders you admire. People rarely follow them because they have all the answers. People follow them because they make others feel understood. They communicate in a way that connects. They communicate in a way that creates clarity. They communicate in a way that helps people see possibilities they could not see before. The reason communication is so powerful is because every relationship in your life depends on it. Your career depends on it. Friendships depend on it. Your marriage depends on it. Your business depends on it. Your leadership depends on it. Every opportunity you receive will pass through the filter of communication. Most people spend years developing technical skills while neglecting the skill that determines whether those technical skills will ever be noticed. We live in a world where people are constantly talking but rarely communicating. People listen to reply. People listen to defend themselves. People listen to prove a point. Very few people listen to understand. And because of that, one of the most valuable communication skills you can develop is not speaking. It is listening. Real listening is a rare skill. When someone feels genuinely heard, something remarkable happens. Their defenses come down. Trust begins to form. Connection becomes possible. The strongest communicators understand that communication is not a performance. It is a relationship. The goal is not to impress people. The goal is to connect with people. And connection always begins with understanding. The challenge is that many people confuse communication with information. They believe communication means delivering facts, but facts alone rarely inspire action. People do not make decisions based solely on information. They make decisions based on emotion, trust, and meaning. That is why some people can present 100 facts and fail to inspire anyone, while another person can tell a simple story and change the way people think forever. Stories matter because they create emotional connection. Facts tell people what? Stories help people understand why, and people are far more likely to remember a feeling than a statistic. Think about the conversations that changed your life. Chances are you do not remember every word, but you remember how those words made you feel. Remember the confidence they gave you. You remember the hope they created. You remember the belief they sparked. That is the power of communication. It is not the transfer of words. It is the transfer of belief. Another reason communication is essential before 35 is because this stage of life is filled with opportunities that depend on influence. You will need to influence employers. You will need to influence clients. You will need to influence colleagues. You will need to influence teams. We'll need to influence family members. And influence does not come from authority alone. Influence comes from trust. The ability to communicate effectively allows people to trust your intentions, understand your vision, and believe in your leadership. Without communication, leadership becomes impossible because leadership is not about giving instructions. Leadership is about creating alignment. It is about helping people move toward a common goal together, and that requires communication. There is another aspect of communication that many people overlook. The way you communicate with yourself. Every day, there is a voice inside your head. That voice influences your confidence. It influences your decisions. It influences your actions. If your internal communication is filled with doubt, fear, and negativity, it becomes difficult to lead yourself effectively. But when you learn to speak to yourself with honesty, responsibility, and encouragement, your mindset begins to change. External communication will never consistently rise above your internal communication. The conversations you have with yourself shape the conversations you have with the world. The strongest communicators also understand the importance of clarity. Confusion creates hesitation. Clarity creates action. People often believe they need complicated language to sound intelligent. But true intelligence is often demonstrated through simplicity. Cannot explain an idea simply, you may not fully understand it yourself. The best communicators take complex concepts and make them accessible. They make difficult things easier to understand. They create clarity where others create confusion. And because of that, people trust them. Trust is built when people understand what you mean and believe what you say. Before the age of 35, focus on becoming the kind of person who communicates with purpose. Speak clearly, listen deeply, ask thoughtful questions. Seek understanding before seeking agreement. Learn how to tell stories, learn how to share ideas, learn how to create connection. Because your future will not simply be determined by what you know. It will be determined by how effectively you help others understand what you know. The world is full of talented people whose voices are never heard because they never learned to communicate. And it is full of ordinary people who achieved extraordinary things because they learned how to connect, inspire, and influence. Communication is not just a professional skill. It is a life skill. It is the bridge between potential and opportunity. It is the bridge between vision and action. It is the bridge between who you are today and the leader you are capable of becoming tomorrow. And the earlier you master that bridge, the further your impact can reach. There was a time when success was often determined by stability. People learned one profession, joined one company, followed one path, and spent decades doing roughly the same thing. The world moved at a predictable pace. Industries changed slowly, technology evolved gradually, skills remained valuable for years, sometimes even generations. But that world no longer exists. Today, change is not an occasional event. Change is the environment. Industries transform overnight. Technology reshapes careers. New opportunities emerge unexpectedly. Entire business models disappear faster than anyone imagined. And in a world defined by constant change, one skill becomes more valuable than almost any other. Adaptability. The ability to adjust, learn, evolve, and move forward when circumstances change. The truth is, your future will not be determined solely by what you know. It will be determined by how quickly you can learn what you do not know. Because knowledge has value. But the ability to acquire new knowledge has even greater value. Many people spend their lives trying to avoid change. They want certainty, they want predictability, they want guarantees, and there is nothing wrong with wanting stability. Stability provides comfort, creates a sense of security. It helps us feel in control. The problem is that growth rarely happens inside comfort. Growth often arrives disguised as uncertainty. It arrives when plans fall apart. It arrives when expectations are shattered. It arrives when life forces us to rethink what we thought we knew. And the people who thrive are not necessarily those who avoid these moments. They are the people who learn how to adapt to them. Think about a tree during a storm. Many people assume the strongest tree is the one that stands completely rigid against powerful winds, but often it is the flexible tree that survives. Bends, it adjusts, it moves with the force instead of resisting every movement. Its flexibility becomes its strength. Human beings are not very different. The people who insist that everything must remain exactly as it is often struggle when change arrives. The people who learn to adjust discover opportunities where others see only obstacles. One of the greatest misconceptions about adaptability is that it means abandoning your values. It does not. Adaptability is not about changing who you are. It is about changing how you respond. Your principles can remain steady while your methods evolve. Purpose can remain constant while your strategies change. In fact, the most successful leaders understand this distinction better than anyone. They know what they stand for, but they remain open to new ways of achieving their goals. They understand that flexibility in approach is not weakness, it is wisdom. The challenge for many people before the age of 35 is that they become attached to a specific vision of how life is supposed to unfold. They create detailed expectations, they imagine a particular career path, a particular timeline, a particular outcome. And when reality takes a different direction, they see it as failure. But sometimes the greatest opportunities emerge from unexpected detours. Many of the most successful people did not arrive where they are by following a perfect plan. They adapted, they adjusted, they learned from setbacks, they discovered opportunities they never originally intended to pursue. Life rarely rewards rigid expectations. It rewards resilient adaptation. Another reason adaptability matters is because learning never ends. Unfortunately, many people treat education as something that stops after graduation. They spend years learning in classrooms, only to assume their education is complete once they enter the workforce. But the most successful individuals understand that learning is not an event. It is a lifestyle. They remain curious. They ask questions. They seek new perspectives. They challenge their assumptions. They continuously update their thinking because they understand something important. The skills that got you here may not be the skills that take you there. What helped you succeed at 25 may not be enough at 35. What worked 5 years ago may no longer work today, and what works today may become outdated tomorrow. The ability to continuously learn is one of the highest forms of adaptability. The world belongs to learners, not because learners know everything, but because they are willing to keep learning. Adaptability also requires humility, and humility is often harder than people realize. Because adapting means admitting that your current approach may not be working. It means acknowledging that someone else may have a better idea. It means accepting that your assumptions could be wrong. For many people, that feels uncomfortable. The ego prefers certainty. The ego prefers being right. The ego prefers familiar routines. But growth demands something different. Growth demands openness. The willingness to say, maybe there is another way. And that willingness creates possibilities. The people who refuse to adapt often become trapped by their own certainty. Meanwhile, those who remain open continue evolving. Another important aspect of adaptability is emotional resilience. Because change often brings discomfort. It brings fear. It brings doubt. It brings moments when the future feels unclear, and those moments test us. When circumstances change unexpectedly, some people immediately panic. Others pause, assess the situation, and begin searching for solutions. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is resilience. Adaptable people understand that uncertainty is part of the journey. They do not expect life to unfold perfectly. They expect challenges. They expect surprises. They expect obstacles. And because they expect them, they are better prepared to navigate them. Resilience does not eliminate difficulty. It allows you to move through difficulty. The reality is that every major breakthrough requires adaptation. Every promotion, every business venture, every meaningful relationship, every personal transformation, each one requires you to become someone slightly different from who you were before. Cannot create a new future while remaining exactly the same person. Growth demands evolution, and evolution requires adaptability. Before the age of 35, develop the habit of embracing change rather than fearing it. Become curious instead of defensive. Become flexible instead of rigid. Become a learner instead of an expert who believes there is nothing left to learn. The goal is not to predict every change that will come your way. That is impossible. The goal is to become the kind of person who can handle change when it arrives, because change will arrive. New technologies will emerge. New industries will appear. New challenges will test you. New opportunities will surprise you. And when those moments come, success will not depend on whether the world remains the same. It will depend on whether you are willing to grow with it. The people who create extraordinary lives are rarely those who resist change. They are the ones who learn how to dance with it. They understand that adaptability is not merely a skill for survival. It is a skill for leadership. It is a skill for growth. It is a skill for relevance. And most importantly, it is a skill that allows you to keep moving forward regardless of what the future brings. Because in a world that never stops changing, the greatest advantage is not knowing what comes next. The greatest advantage is knowing that whatever comes next, you are capable of adapting to it. When people think about success, they often think about intelligence. They think about grades, qualifications, knowledge, expertise, and technical skills. They believe that people who rise to the top are simply the people who know more than everyone else. But if knowledge alone determines success, every genius would become a great leader. Every expert would build strong relationships, and every talented individual would create a fulfilling life. That is not what we see. We see highly intelligent people struggling to work with others. We see talented individuals damaging relationships they care about. We see capable professionals losing opportunities because they cannot manage conflict, pressure, or communication. And we see ordinary people accomplishing extraordinary things because they possess a skill that is often overlooked. Emotional intelligence, the ability to understand your emotions, manage your reactions, recognize the emotions of others, and build meaningful human connections. Before the age of 35, this is one of the most important skills you can develop because your future will not be shaped solely by what you know. It will be shaped by how well you work with people. And every relationship in your life is influenced by emotional intelligence. The truth is, life is not a purely logical experience. Human beings like to believe they make decisions based entirely on reason. But emotions influence almost everything. They influence the opportunities we pursue. They influence the risks we take. They influence the relationships we build. They influence the words we speak. And they influence the choices we regret. The challenge is that many people spend years learning how to manage tasks, but never learn how to manage themselves. They know how to operate a computer. They know how to solve technical problems. They know how to complete projects, but they do not know how to handle frustration. They do not know how to respond to criticism. They do not know how to process disappointment. And because of that, their emotions often control them instead of informing them. Emotion itself is not the problem. The inability to understand emotion is the problem. Think about anger. Most people treat anger as something negative. But anger is often information. It may be revealing a boundary that has been crossed. It may be highlighting an injustice. It may be pointing towards something that matters deeply. The issue is not feeling anger. The issue is what happens next. Do you react impulsively? Do you say something you later regret? Do you allow a temporary emotion to create a permanent consequence? Or do you pause, understand the emotion, and respond thoughtfully? That pause is emotional intelligence, and it can change the course of a career, a relationship, or even a life. One of the greatest strengths emotionally intelligent people possess is self-awareness. They understand themselves. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. They know what motivates them. They know what triggers them. And because they understand themselves, they make better decisions. Many people move through life on autopilot. They react without reflection. They speak without thinking. They act without understanding why. But self-awareness creates choice, and choice creates freedom. When you become aware of your patterns, gain the ability to change them. When you understand your emotions, you stop being controlled by them. When you recognize your habits, gain the power to improve them. That awareness becomes a foundation for growth. But emotional intelligence is not only about understanding yourself, it is also about understanding others. This is where empathy becomes important. Empathy is one of the most powerful leadership skills in existence, yet it is often misunderstood. Empathy does not mean agreeing with everyone. It does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It does not mean sacrificing your standards. Empathy means seeking to understand another person's perspective. It means recognizing that every person you meet is fighting battles you cannot see. Every individual has fears. Every individual has dreams. Every individual carries experiences that shape how they think and behave. When you begin to understand this, your relationships change. Instead of judging quickly, you become curious. Instead of assuming motives, ask questions. Instead of creating conflict, you create connection. And connection is one of the most valuable resources in life. People want to feel understood. More than money, more than recognition, more than status. People want to know that they matter. The leaders who understand this create loyalty. The friends who understand this create trust. The partners who understand this create stronger relationships. Because emotional intelligence allows people to feel seen. Another reason emotional intelligence matters before 35 is because life becomes increasingly complex. Responsibilities grow. Pressure increases. Expectations rise. The challenges you face become larger, and in those moments, emotional control becomes essential. Anyone can remain calm when everything is going well. The real test comes when things fall apart. How do you respond when a deal fails? How do you respond when someone criticizes you? How do you respond when you face rejection? How do you respond when life does not go according to plan? Your response in those moments reveals your emotional maturity. Emotionally intelligent people understand that every feeling does not require immediate action. They understand that emotions are signals, not commands. Just because you feel discouraged does not mean you should quit. Just because you feel afraid does not mean you should stop. Just because you feel uncertain does not mean you should avoid the opportunity. They learn to separate temporary feelings from long-term decisions. And that ability creates resilience. One of the most dangerous habits people develop is allowing emotions to dictate their identity. They fail once and believe they are failures. They experience rejection and believe they are unworthy. They'll feel fear and assume they are weak. But emotions are experiences. They are not definitions. You can feel fear and still be courageous. You can feel doubt and still move forward. You can feel uncertainty and still make progress. Emotional intelligence helps you understand that emotions are part of the journey, not the destination. The people who achieve meaningful success are not those who never experience difficult emotions. They experience them all: fear, doubt, frustration, disappointment, anxiety. The difference is that they do not allow those emotions to become permanent residents. They acknowledge them, they learn from them, and then they continue moving forward. Before the age of 35, invest time in understanding yourself. Pay attention to your reactions, attention to your patterns, pay attention to the emotions that influence your decisions. Learn how to pause before responding. Learn how to listen before judging. Learn how to understand before criticizing. Because the quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your relationships. And the quality of your relationships is deeply connected to your emotional intelligence. The world has plenty of knowledgeable people. The world has plenty of talented people. The world has plenty of skilled people. What it desperately needs are people who can combine knowledge with self-awareness, talent with empathy, and ambition with emotional maturity. Those are the people who build trust. Those are the people who inspire loyalty. Those are the people who create lasting impact. And those are the people who understand that true success is not just about managing tasks. It is about managing yourself. Because when you learn to understand your emotions and connect with the emotions of others, you gain something more valuable than influence. Gain the ability to lead people, strengthen relationships, and navigate life with wisdom. And that is a skill that will serve you long after every other advantage has faded. One of the greatest challenges facing people today is not a lack of opportunity. It is not a lack of information. It is not even a lack of talent. One of the greatest challenges is that we live in a world obsessed with immediate results. Everything around us encourages short-term thinking. We want instant answers, instant entertainment, instant success, instant recognition, instant rewards. We have become accustomed to pressing a button and receiving what we want within seconds. And while technology has made life more convenient, it has also created a dangerous illusion. The illusion that meaningful success should happen quickly. But if you study anything truly valuable in life, you will discover a different pattern. Strong relationships take time. Great careers take time. Financial freedom takes time, trust takes time, leadership takes time, character takes time. The most important things in life are built slowly. And that is why one of the most important skills you must develop before the age of 35 is the ability to think long-term. Long-term thinking is the ability to make decisions today based on the future you want tomorrow. It is the ability to sacrifice immediate comfort for lasting rewards. It is the ability to remain committed to a vision long before the results become visible. The problem is that most people judge their actions based on what happens immediately. If they go to the gym for a week and see no dramatic transformation, they quit. If they start a business and do not see instant success, they become discouraged. If they begin learning a new skill and struggle at first, they assume they are not talented enough. They expect visible results from invisible progress, and when they do not see those results quickly, they stop. But success rarely works that way. Most meaningful achievements operate on a delayed timeline. For a long period, it feels like nothing is happening. You work, you learn, you improve. Stay consistent, yet outwardly, very little appears to change. Then one day, the results begin to show. People call it luck. People call it talent. People call it overnight success. But what they are actually seeing is years of invisible effort becoming visible. Long-term thinkers understand this. They understand that the seeds planted today may not produce fruit for years, yet they plant them anyway. Because they know something that many people forget. The future is created by what you repeatedly do in the present. Think about leadership. Nobody becomes a respected leader overnight. Trust accumulates gradually. Every promise kept matters. Every act of integrity matters. Every difficult conversation handled well matters. Over time, those small actions create credibility, and credibility creates influence. But only for those willing to play the long game. The same principle applies to personal growth. Many people focus on goals, and goals are important. Goals provide direction, goals create motivation, goals help us define what we want. But goals alone are not enough. Long-term thinkers focus on something deeper than goals. They focus on systems. A goal is something you want to achieve. A system is the process that helps you achieve it. Anyone can set a goal. Few people build the habits necessary to reach it. The person who thinks long-term understands that habits compound. Small actions, repeated consistently, become extraordinary results over time. Reading 10 pages a day does not seem impressive. Saving a small amount of money each month does not seem life-changing. Spending 30 minutes learning a new skill each day may not feel significant, but years later, those small actions create a completely different life. The challenge is that compounding is invisible in the beginning. And because it is invisible, most people quit before it starts working. Long-term thinkers remain committed because they understand the process. They know that progress often happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible above it. Another reason long-term thinking is so valuable before 35 is because these years are often filled with comparison. People compare careers. They compare income. They compare achievements. They compare timelines. Social media has made this even more difficult. Every day, people see carefully edited highlights from other people's lives. They see success stories, promotions, luxury lifestyles, business victories, recognition, and they begin questioning their own progress. They feel behind, they feel inadequate. They feel as though everyone else is moving faster. But comparison is a short-term mindset. It focuses on where others are today. Long-term thinking focuses on where you are going tomorrow. The truth is that every person's journey unfolds differently. Some people achieve success early, some achieve it later, some take unexpected paths. Some face setbacks that ultimately become their greatest lessons. There is no universal timeline. There is only your timeline. And when you focus too much on what others are doing, you lose sight of what you should be building. Long-term thinkers understand that consistency beats comparison. They do not ask, how fast can I get there? They ask, how long can I stay committed? Because commitment creates results. Another important aspect of long-term thinking is patience. Patience is not passive. Patience does not mean doing nothing. Patience means continuing to do the right things even when results are delayed. It means trusting the process while remaining committed to the work. This is difficult because human beings naturally crave certainty. We want guarantees. We want proof. We want immediate confirmation that our efforts are working. But many of life's greatest rewards require faith before evidence. You must invest before you profit. You must practice before you master. You must serve before you lead. You must learn before you earn. The people who understand this gain an enormous net advantage because they are willing to endure temporary uncertainty for long-term success. Long